In the annals of ancient history, King Saul stood as the first king of Israel, anointed by the prophet Samuel. King Saul's reign is one of the most fascinating tales of the ancient world. From humble beginnings, Saul rose to prominence, capturing the hearts of the Israelites with his leadership prowess and military might. The early days of his kingship were marked by resounding victories, as Saul led his people against their adversaries with fierce determination and strategic brilliance. His triumphs on the battlefield not only solidified Israel's position among the nations, but also cemented Saul's popularity among his subjects. But the reign of King Saul was not all about glory and triumph. Beneath the veneer of success, a storm was brewing. Saul, in his hubris, began to stray from the path laid out for him by God. He disobeyed divine commands, making decisions based on his own judgment rather than divine guidance. This disobedience, subtle initially, would become a defining feature of his rule, a flaw that would lead to his downfall. As the sun began to set on Saul's reign, his popularity waned. His once loyal subjects started to question his leadership. His military victories, once a source of pride, were overshadowed by his disobedience. The unity of the kingdom began to fracture, and the once strong and prosperous nation found itself on the brink of collapse. The decline of King Saul is a tale of lost potential, of what could have been had pride and disobedience not taken hold. It's a story of a leader who, despite having been chosen by God, lost his way, his crown, and ultimately, his life. Saul's disobedience would set a chain of events into motion, leading to a young shepherd named David taking center stage. This is where our story takes a dramatic turn, as the shepherd boy from Bethlehem emerges from the shadows, ready to pick up the mantle of leadership and guide his people into a new era. But that's a tale for another time. Enter David, a young shepherd from Bethlehem, anointed by Samuel as the next king of Israel. A humble shepherd boy, David was not the obvious choice for king, but his courage and faith would soon shine brightly for all of Israel to see. David's rise to prominence began with a single stone and a giant named Goliath. This Philistine giant had challenged the Israelites to single combat, a challenge no one dared to accept, except for young David. Armed with only a sling, 5 smooth stones from a stream, and his unwavering faith in God, David faced Goliath and emerged victorious. But this victory was not just about defeating a giant. It was the beginning of David's journey to becoming a revered king. His courage in the face of insurmountable odds painted him as a beacon of hope for the people of Israel, earning him the admiration and respect of many, including Jonathan, the son of King Saul. Jonathan and David formed a bond so strong that Jonathan, despite being the heir to Saul's throne, was willing to set aside his claim for the sake of his friend. This friendship, however, was not well received by King Saul. Saul saw David's growing popularity as a threat to his reign, and so, the seeds of jealousy were sown. Saul's jealousy grew into a dangerous obsession, leading him to make several attempts on David's life. David, despite his loyalty to Saul, found himself caught in a deadly game of cat and mouse with the king. Yet, even in the face of adversity, David did not falter. His faith in God remained steadfast, and he refused to lay a hand on Saul, choosing instead to flee and hide. David, despite being anointed as the next king, found himself on the run from a jealous and vengeful Saul. Little did he know his flight would lead him to a place of refuge, a cave that would serve as a turning point in his journey to the throne, the cave of Adullam. With his life in danger, David sought refuge in the wilderness, eventually finding himself in the cave of Adullam. As the relentless pursuit of King Saul persisted, David was forced to flee, carving a path through the unforgiving wilderness. His journey led him to the mouth of a cave, a place that was to become his sanctuary, his stronghold, his cave of Adullam. The cave of Adullam, tucked away amidst the rugged terrains of Judah, was more than just a hideout. It was a fortress in the wilderness, a beacon of hope in a time of despair. As David stepped into the cool darkness of the cave, he was not merely seeking a place to hide, he was seeking refuge, a sanctuary, a place of rest amidst the turmoil. The cave was not just a physical refuge for David, but a spiritual one as well. It was here, in the solitude of the cave, that David found the space to commune with God, to pour out his heart in prayer and song. In the quietness of the cave, away from the relentless pursuit of Saul, David found solace and strength in his relationship with God. The cave of Adullam was also a place of transformation for David. As he hid from Saul, David was not idle. He was being prepared, being molded for his future role as king. The cave served as a crucible, a place where David was refined under the pressures of life, where his character was shaped and his faith was strengthened. David's time in the cave of Adullam was not a period of stagnation, it was a period of growth. The cave was not just a place of refuge, it was a place of renewal. It was here that David grew in wisdom and understanding. It was here that David was equipped for the challenges that lay ahead. The cave of Adullam was not just a hideout for David, it was a place where he grew spiritually and mentally, preparing him for his future kingship. In the stillness of the cave, amidst the trials of life, David found his strength in God and emerged from the cave of Adullam, not as a fugitive but as a future king. Hidden within the confines of the cave, David found more than just a physical refuge. As David sought shelter from Saul's relentless pursuit, the cave of Adullam became his sanctuary, his haven. But the cave was more than mere stone and shadow. It was a crucible, a place of transformation. Within its depths, David found a spiritual refuge that was even more profound than its physical protection. David, the shepherd turned outlaw, turned to the ultimate shepherd, pouring out his heart in prayer and song. He penned psalms that reverberate through the corridors of time, echoing with raw emotion and spiritual depth. These verses captured the essence of his experience: fear, despair, hope, and faith, intertwining in a melody of the human condition. They were not just hymns but reflections of his spiritual growth, a testament to his evolving relationship with God. Psalm 142, written within the cave's confines, reveals David's despair and loneliness, his sense of being overwhelmed. Yet, even in this dark hour, his faith remained unshaken. He called out to God, affirming his trust in divine deliverance. This was not a man cowed by his circumstances, but one who, in the face of adversity, drew strength from his faith. But David was not alone in the cave. His followers, initially a ragtag group of misfits and outcasts, grew in number. They were drawn to his charisma, his faith, and his vision of a just kingdom. Under his leadership, this motley crew was forged into an army, a force that would eventually help him ascend to the throne. Yet, within the cave, David was no king. He was a leader, a mentor, a spiritual guide. He molded these men just as the cave was molding him. He taught them about loyalty, valor, and faith. He prepared them for a future where they would stand by his side as he stepped out of the shadows and into his destiny. David's time in the cave of Adullam was a time of growth and preparation, molding him into the king he was destined to be. Emerging from the cave, David was not the same man who had entered it. His time in the cave of Adullam, hiding from King Saul, had transformed him. It was a place of fear and desperation, yes, but it also became a place of growth and preparation. David returned from the cave with a new perspective and a renewed strength. He had faced his fear, weathered the storm, and emerged stronger. His time in the cave had not only been a period of survival but also of introspection and preparation. It had prepared him for the challenges and responsibilities that lay ahead. After Saul's death, David ascended to the throne, but his journey to kingship was not a simple transition. It was a journey filled with trials and tribulations, a journey that tested his faith and resilience at every turn. Yet David's time in the cave had equipped him with the courage and wisdom needed to navigate these challenges. David's ascension to the throne marked a new era in the history of Israel. His rule brought prosperity and peace, and his leadership was characterized by wisdom and justice. David's time in the cave had prepared him for this. It had honed his leadership skills, deepened his faith, and strengthened his resolve. David's story is not just the tale of a shepherd boy who became a king. It's a story of transformation, of growth, and of faith. It's a story of how adversity can strengthen us, prepare us, and lead us to our destiny. As we look back at David's journey, we see a man who faced adversity with courage and faith. A man who used his time in the cave, not just to hide, but to grow and prepare for his future. A man who emerged from the darkness of the cave, ready to step into the light of his destiny. David's journey from a shepherd to a king, with a significant stop at the cave of Adullam,